Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. Surprise, surprise, we don't currently have anybody online. I don't
Sarah just
think.
came on.
Oh, did she? Wow, Sarah, that's impressive. She must have been waiting for us, so. Okay, so we start with the privilege of the floor. I think, everybody in the room knows they're welcome to speak anytime, but does anybody wish to say anything during privilege of the floor?
I have something that's not on the agenda.
Of course, go for it.
So in regards to the road dedication at Lacrosse Circle. I know that this was something that I think we were deciding to get taken care of ASAP. And Crystalline reached out to me this morning. They have to file, they have filings that they have to submit to the county for the dedication. And since we're outside of our normal time frame of the town abstract, I just wanted permission to do a special abstract to pay the fees to the county to get the filings done. It's like $635.
And this is where there are people waiting to move into their house.
There's a
Yeah.
CFO
Yeah.
that's being held up.
Right.
Yeah, so I think we had
I
talked.
think
at
you
the
can
last
give a nice
finance meeting
Christmas present of.
about,
us,
yeah. Moving forward with a partial dedication, I think was the
Yeah.
thing. All I'm asking for is just to write this special abstract,
Yeah.
write a special check.
It's cool with me.
Votes, yes.
Okay. Well, normally this is something that I would ask Doug's permission to
yeah.
do outside and, okay. And then, yeah, that's good. Okay.
That's why we have finance meetings, just so you can just.
It
have
was super handy because
Now
she
you've
called
got
me this
all
morning
of
and I
us,
was like,
so
oh,
you're like,
bring it up.
perfect time. And I neglected to ask for an approval of the minutes from December 14th, so can I get a motion to approve the last meeting's minutes?
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, minutes are approved. All right, that moves us right into our main topic of conversation today, which is this fee schedule for 2024. I'm glad to see we got some reps here from the development office too, and from the clerk's office, so thanks for coming down. Did we have any overall comments from anybody on the town board before we start diving into details on it? So. I do have one overall note, that I was talking a little bit with Lindsay about yesterday. Apparently the new, and you might know more about this too, Heather, but the new software for paying for billing various park reservation buildings doesn't allow individual rates for the town resident and the non-town resident. So there needs to be a discounted percentage. It'll take a percentage, but not a rate. And there's currently a draft of a reso for January saying about that is recommending 25%, which is my understanding was the Parks Committee's recommendation for a 25% discount. But in going through the fee schedule, a lot of these are already 40% discounted, 35% discounted. So I think, we can discuss it more in January, but we might want to think about doing more than 25%. My recommendation personally, after going through it too, I know, and Dave, maybe you remember this, it's been quite a few years since we've upped these fees anyway, for any of the buildings. So my personal recommendation would be a small across the board increase overall to the rates with a 30% or 35% town discount. That would be what I would suggest. So, but wondering if anybody else has thoughts or feelings on that.
So we did talk in the Parks and Rec committee meeting about an overall increase of the rates. But because we were going to change that non-resident or the resident rate to a flat percentage instead of all over the place, and it was going to in turn make an increase, then Lindsay and I thought maybe an overall increase would be something in the future, maybe when we get those new cabins there, like definitely something we need to do, but maybe kind of ease into it because their rates are already gonna go up. But
I think we should be
if
doing
you-
a small overall every year, just in order to, so that we're not jumping, 20% every 5 years or something like that. So.
I certainly think that an increase would not be, you know, abnormal.
But I think if we
Pretty
pair
good.
that with a larger than 25% discount, I think that will help offset.
So Terry brought up a point, or Terry or John, what percent of town rentals versus non-resident rentals are there? Do you know something off your head?
I don't know off the top of my head. I did do the numbers and had sent them to Lindsay. But I don't have them in front of me, so I
But
don't.
we should be able to.
They have
do
data on that,
because
yeah.
we build different ways,
Yeah.
right? So,
Right.
right, so
Yeah,
that,
I did have one from this past year. And like I said, I sent those numbers to Lindsay when we were talking about all this, but I don't have it in front of me right now, so.
Anybody else have thoughts on those? At all?
Well, 25% the average.
No, I was going through and they had, the reso said 25 and that's why I started looking at it. And some are literally like 45,
It's
you know,
really all over the
Yeah.
place.
There's no constant.
right.
yeah. And I know why. I mean, I'm sure Dave does too. When we were in meetings, we would literally just be like, well, that sounds like a good number for that one. And that sounds like a good number for that one. So that's how we said it in the past. So, but
Well, it's really just the inability to separate the two.
Yeah.
From software standpoint.
Yeah.
Cause
So-
I went through and I just added a 10% to everyone
mhm.
and then took 70% of that. So then you've got a 30% discount for town residents and
Mhm.
it, you know, like for the weeklies, some of them, they go up. You know, $50 a week. For the town residents, I mean, that's, it makes the increase a little more consistent.
It
Yeah.
is a bargain. I mean,
Yeah.
at the last meeting, they had pulled different municipalities rentals and
Oh, yeah.
we're low across the board on everything. No
Yep.
matter lakeside, non-lakeside, we're the lowest around.
Well, none of the non-resident numbers are touched. Careful.
Not in this
Correct,
one, not
right.
yet. I mean, this is just a draft. We can all do whatever we want to do with the Parks Committee and everybody else, but
Well, I
this is
guess that would
just,
be a question, should we take them up? I mean,
well, that's my
they're
thing.
higher to begin with.
That,
But-
that's,
They're
that's
low.
what I'm saying. I feel like we should do a small increase across the board, but then if we do the percent, do a larger discount.
Yeah,
That's-
because the reason that I didn't do that was because if we did 25%, that was gonna make the residents jump twice, basically.
Yeah. mhm.
You know, if we jumped the non-residents and then only did 25%, which is already making making the residents go up, then it was gonna make it go up even higher. But if you decided to increase that discount to balance that, I don't think that would be an issue.
And that's doable with the software.
Yes, so it's just, it works better to be able to have, because each one was a different rate, so.
Mhm, yeah,
The only way that we could do that in the software, it's not necessarily there was an inability to do it, but every single facility had
Mhm.
a coupon code. Which just
That's
makes it for
insane.
more confusion, trying
That's
to give the
insane.
residents
No,
the discount
that's
codes
insane.
and to keep track of it all. So it's just, you could do like a flat amount or a percentage, and then it's just, it's just one coupon code that you give out that fits all of the facilities,
Mhm.
so that it's
Yes.
just. Otherwise
It makes sense
not
anyway.
so
We should be
many.
doing them at
Yeah,
the same
and it's
amount
not
off.
easy also to tell, because sometimes they're like, well, what's the percentage of the
Yeah,
discount? I'm
like, I
well,
don't know,
depends on
let
what
me
facility
calculate
you're
it on
in.
my phone.
Like, it's not really a percentage, it's a random amount. you know,
Exactly.
Just to, we get that a lot too.
So what you're proposing is to have a non-resident price for each of these, which if you just leave it the way it is, and then discount 30% off the non-resident.
Right, yeah, discounted
But to-
percentage.
To be honest, now that I'm thinking this through, if you only update the resident. Which in some cases is actually gonna make it more expensive because it's less of a discount. It's going to appear that you're only increasing the non-resident rate and not, or the resident rate and not the non, you know what I
No,
mean?
I'm talking about increasing.
No, I know what you're saying.
Overall-
I'm just
oh,
saying
okay.
this proposed, it may look like
That
it's,
too,
you're only
yeah.
increasing the resident rate.
That's
which
true, too.
Doesn't seem very
I see what you're saying too, yeah.
palatable.
Well,
So it looks it even worse.
Right. It looks like- That's what I said before the speaking started.
Yeah.
You only increase the resident.
Yes,
So, yeah.
exactly.
Right,
Makes it
yeah.
even worse, so.
So,
Well, see, I didn't have that feeling because I read the fake reso before, so I knew why they were doing it, but it was.
Yeah, I understood why they were
But you're
doing it,
right,
but I
if
didn't
you're not
realize-
reading the reso,
I was
it doesn't
looking
make
at it.
sense. Why are we
Right.
just increasing our residence costs? Yeah.
The people, when most people call in and make reservations, they do, is it online, is it?
Well, if they make it online, they have to call for the coupon code
Okay.
ahead of time.
Mhm.
So it's various
How many
different.
people, when you're talking to them, say, that's too expensive, forget it? Does it happen at all, or?
I think the only time it happens is if someone thought they were a town resident and then realized that they weren't.
Okay,
And then they'll be like, oh, that's not what I thought it was. Other than that, no, I would say more often than not, we
So
probably get
cheap,
people
yeah.
being like, oh, that's all.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Clearly
That's for the
we're not
whole
charging
week.
it.
No, we're not.
Charging enough. I mean,
Correct.
That is.
That is true.
Right.
We're not.
Sure.
We had a glitch in the software where it charged someone rented Lil House for a week. And it charged them the daily rate rather than flipping to the weekly rate. So they paid $700 for the week at Lil House without even
Knowing, yeah.
questioning it. They never reached out to us. We obviously refunded them.
You can't
But,
get anywhere
I
to sleep
mean,
for $100
The
a night.
actual price for
anywhere.
that is much less,
300.
$360.
Like, like our
$700
meeting we had, the
Right.
meeting we just had, you could probably rent something for the whole summer for cheaper than an apartment in Canandaigua at this
I'm
point.
not saying that that seems like a logical rate, but it just kind of like, oh, okay.
what is the? Been around here a long time, I guess I've never asked this question, but what is the basis for? Determining what any of these rates should be? I mean, is it a comparison to other, like state parks that rent?
No, it's
cabins?
absolutely not that.
Mm-mm.
They,
Just-
Parks Committee
just,
pulled all that
Park
stuff out
Committee.
of there from all over the place, and we're lower on, no matter how, we're the lowest around. I
Yeah.
mean, everything, I think they pulled 5 different places,
Yeah.
including state parks, someplace up on Lake Ontario.
It's
Some of
very
them-
low.
Some of them half price. from what
So,
they're
but I
paying.
think in correcting that, and this is also because we have the new cabins coming too. I think we need a slow build into a correct for that too, because what happens right now, there's a lot of people, and you know this, that there's 1 week every year, their whole family rents, several things every single year consistently. So I think we need to also respect that in the terms of, oh, this year that might have cost you $1,000, but next year it's gonna cost you 2,500. I mean, we need to slow build into that new level for
So
those
what does slow
people.
build
So,
look like? Do we increase the rate? I mean, we're gonna increase the non-resident rate
Yeah.
and then base the resident rate
Off of that,
So-
yeah.
So do we increase the non-resident rate 20%?
That's the question. I
30%?
think 10 or 15. I think it's got, because we're gonna, yeah, it's gotta be a
We're way
creep.
behind.
I know we are, but I think,
No,
Yeah, we
I,
can't,
I,
you know what,
Yeah.
we
yeah.
can't have to.
But is 20%, I mean, if you take 20% of. I mean, for, you add, Lakeside Cabins, 360 for a
Mhm.
week.
Yeah.
It's $80 to add 20%.
Roughly. That's
Yeah.
not very much for a cabin
I
for
know.
a week. I mean, it's.
I know,
it's
they're
$10,
still low.
it's, you know,
they're
$12 a
still,
day.
I agree, they're still low, but I feel like for those people who are, it's an every year thing. I don't feel right doing it all at once,
So what, what
like-
feels right, 15%?
Well, that's the question for us.
Right, I
So,
mean, it's a bargain, and I'm not trying to eliminate people
Yeah.
from renting them. Yet, we have a lot of man hours and money that are invested in these things, and when we put those new ones over there, I mean, that.
well,
has
those
to
we
get-
can obviously
right.
start at a totally different
Higher,
rate, because
higher
they're a
rate.
completely different situation in every way, so. But that's the other thing, by the time we have those there, it'd be nice if they're not astronomically higher than everywhere else on campus, to
Yeah.
create a weird dichotomy, but. So I don't know, I mean, let's think about that between now and, are we doing this January 8th or the second January meeting? January 8th?
Set the fee schedules and everything.
January
Yeah.
Okay, so let's figure out where we're comfortable with somewhere between 10 and 20, I think, is where we are, and figure out where we're comfortable with. And you're shaking your head, Jerry. Is there,
I'd go with 20 myself, I mean, I think
And then
that,
we
Okay.
do a 30.
you look at.
30%.
third, and
35.
I think 30% discount for town
Yeah, I think
residents. I think
Biggest
that makes
number on the
sense.
page is $650
Yep.
A week.
a week,
Mhm,
taking
I
that
know.
up 20%, $132.
That's
Yeah.
one night
Right,
at a
right.
Mhm.
Midway
It's
adjacent hotel.
About 3 or 4 hours at the lake shore.
Right,
Yeah.
so perfect.
Anyway, it's just, And I get it, and I think we should be much higher. I just don't wanna do it all at once.
No, I know,
That's all.
but I think we need to visit it every year, maybe.
20%.
I think we should have an every year,
3%.
3% or 4% increase that we work in once we get to a good spot, so.
Take a look at what happened, if we took it up 20%. The end of this time next year, what happened in 24 versus 23, and Rundle do the
If they're
same,
the same, then we're
we
good.
didn't raise it too much. You can always adjust, you can go up or down, so.
So book your cabins now for all you people online. Okay, so that's, and the other, then I had one more question from that section, which might be another slightly controversial one. So, and I was talking to Lindsay about this, and I want this to go back to parks before this is something that we definitely change, but so the Ononda Park parking fees. Right now, we charge people $5 per vehicle on the lakefront during the week, $7 per vehicle on the lakefront during the weekend, and $1 per person to walk in. And what I brought up to Lindsay is two things. The first is, do we care that much about that $1 per person walk in? Are we keeping track of people? I mean, what is the reason for that? Because a $1 per person walk in, all it does is create a heck of a lot of work for somebody for very little monetary recompense sense. And somebody's got to go to the bank and get $1,001,001. And what are we going to start having people scan, or Venmo us for $1? I mean, it's kind of a stupid thing. So it should either be higher or eliminated, in my opinion, the $1. So
Do we know how many
so-
$1 we took in last year?
well, that's what Lindsay was saying too, though, is yes, we do, but also there's a lot of it that escapes. People go under the bridge,
Right,
people
right,
don't
right.
do it, and it's
I
just
mean,
kind of,
There must be a number that we say, okay, we took in $500.
but yeah, I'm sure there is, but it was, I mean,
Is
nothing,
it minimal?
it's nothing substantial. According to Lindsay, it was nothing substantial when I talked to her
I
about it, so.
don't know that separately. It's not something we like log in the system. It would have to be.
And that's the thing, I
think
mean,
We'd have to look through reports.
It's like the purpose of that, if the purpose of that is tracking people in, it's not properly tracking the amount of people that are coming in. And it's just, and then there's the whole question of, it's a park, it's a public park. People should be able to use a public park, for free, essentially. I
Right.
mean, I feel like we should just, I think that is it's a remainder from when this was a state park, and state parks have entrance fees, and it just, I don't know. I feel like, in my
They
opinion,
don't have walk-in entrance fees.
exactly, but in my opinion, I feel like,
State parks. do.
They do?
Oh, yeah, every state park has a daily use fee.
Yeah.
That's where they had that Empire Pass, there was an Empire Pass.
Yeah,
Yeah, I know, but I've
So
only
is
ever
it
paid
even-
that when I drove in.
drove in, yeah,
Drove in where?
to a state
To a
park.
state park.
yeah.
If you walk in, you can just walk in.
Oh, you might be right on walking.
Yeah,
in,
because like
yeah.
Geneva, like
Yeah,
the
you might be right.
lakefront,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
Take
connected,
a
you can
car
walk.
in, yeah.
That's what I was
Right.
saying. There's no walk-in fee. It's like $8 to drive in.
But so that's, I mean, that's my point. Like, why do we care? You can't buy a pack of gum for $1. Why do we care about
It seems
things?
like that.
Seems like a stupid
administrative
waste of
burden
time.
that-
And it'd be a nice thing where people be like, oh, that's, it's just.
Put that in our promo stuff, and we're raising rates
We're raising
20%,
Yeah.
but free walking.
Free walk. There you go. Dave's got a whole pattern. So, and then speaking of also raising rates too, is I feel like the non-resident weekend per vehicle should be higher than 7, so. Like a nice even number, like, say 10, so that we don't change.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and they realize we really don't want people parking there. if we
No, we
can.
don't.
want them
We want them up above.
up
That's the
above,
whole point, so.
That's probably a good strategy to try to move people. You can't afford $10, then just walk 100 yards and park up there.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
so
you're saying to only change the non-resident parking?
That would be my
The
suggestion.
only thing with that is then the park staff is gonna have to
Yeah.
verify residency.
I would just say $10 parking.
They do
No matter
though.
where you are.
They
That's
verify
just-
residency anyway, though. I mean,
I
like,
don't-
if you
I
go
mean,
to
maybe
buy
you
the
can buy it,
pass for the
but
summer, they'll
then
look at
it's
what your
gonna be an
residency
extra
is
step
too.
that-
so.
And then they're gonna have to know, like, if they have a candidate, what address is it actually?
But they already
in
know
town?
that, because if you go down if you go down to buy the season pass, they have to confirm that you're a Candigo resident when they're doing it then too, so.
They don't
So.
always. do
But
that.
they- yeah.
But if
Okay.
we raised it to $10 across the board, that would encourage people to buy a pass, like, hey, you're gonna come here 4 times.
But it'd be
Go.
$10 with a 30% off, which is back to 7.
Yeah.
So,
But it's-
if we're
but
doing
it's not a
30% off
discount
across the
now,
board,
it's
so.
the same. Resident.
Yeah, but I mean, that's why it fits right in with the 30% off as well. 'cause if you
Yeah, I
can,
agree with
exactly,
that, like
so.
if you made it like, yeah,
I think
$80
across the board,
and then-
everything should be discounted for
30%
residents versus. I don't know, think about it. We got a few
Thing is,
weeks to
like,
think
I
about it.
agree with that. How are you gonna establish that? Pull out your driver's license? and say, "There it is."
Well, where do you
But that's what they have done. I mean,
Who's gonna look at that and know that where I live on County Road
All you need-
32, where does it stop?
all
in
you need to
Canandaigua?
know is if you have a 3-digit number or a 4-digit number for town of Canandaigua, so.
Not necessarily.
Oh, you mean in the other direction down there, yeah.
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 Oh, okay.
Well,
Still, yeah,
oh, I have.
Town of
says
Gordon.
that works for
Canandaigua.
Canandaigua, yeah,
And
but
if
not
someone
for,
doesn't know
yeah,
the name of the roads in the town,
Yeah.
Right.
They would have.
And
yeah.
there's even some roads that are both,
right?
But how do you do it now if somebody wants to
Yeah.
buy the season pass?
we'll look it up on Encore. I
Or
don't
they
know.
can come
I
in
mean-
and buy the pass and show you registration.
Cause I've bought those
When they come
passes
in
down
here-
at Ononda before, so,
I
but.
mean, they have to have some way to do it because I'm sure people do buy their passes
Mm-hmm.
there, but I don't think it happens that frequently and we've definitely seen some.
Well,
errors.
maybe we could just establish that they can only buy a season pass here
We could, but I don't know. Yeah.
or online. Can they purchase them on?
No.
No, I wouldn't wanna do that, cause a lot of people would walk in and be like, oh, so it's $7 for the day, but if it's June, I might as well just buy the season pass for $40 or whatever it is, so that's. I don't know,
I
that,
don't think you want to.
No,
you think you need to be able to do it in both
He's
places, so.
not for us to have to decide
No.
who's what.
Yeah,
Right.
I.
Tough enough out
These
here
are
in
kids,
transfer.
Yeah, they're kids. right?
But they already are doing it though, is what
Well,
I'm saying, so
Right.
I think that's a.
they've been doing it for. They're not doing it well, but they're apparently, but they are doing it, so.
Station tag hanging in the window gets you your discounted rate, then everybody will have their transfer station tag.
That's
Correct.
something that has to be addressed at some point too, because
Yeah.
those things are years out of date.
Yeah.
But not today.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we've got the $10 weekends across the board
The
holiday.
30% discount, yeah.
No, it's the same. Are we doing the same $10 if you drive your vehicle in on a weekend or holiday, no matter if you live in the town or not?
My
No,
vote would be-
with the
I- my
30%
vote would be the
discount.
same, just because we don't
Right.
really want people there.
Okay.
parking there Unless, there's, handicapped or whatever, and then just have people walk in. I think to me, that's a simple process
Okay,
And for weekdays, right now it's $5
across the board.
across the board.
should that be 7?
Or should it be 10?
No, I don't think, weekday, there's not as much of a pull on the parking as there is in the.
What is the?
Plus weekdays, you got all the people coming in to pick up their kids from the camps and, it's a little more chaotic, so.
Do they have to pay to pick their kids up?
No, they
Yeah.
don't, but there's a lot more.
If they want them
And,
back.
Yeah. If I gotta pay, my kids would still be there. Nature nothing.
And then season passes, they were 35 and 65, so. what do
Yeah,
we
that's,
think?
that's almost a 50% discount before, and that's been 35 forever. Cause I always buy that, so, but,
So what do we think we should?
well, we said we are gonna do it across the board, should we do it across the board?
Discount.
So if we're doing, I think we'll just do we're gonna do everything across the board and then pull 30% back, I think that's the cleanest way to do it.
And
I
that's,
think rather than jumping around, which I think we're starting to get into right now, we ought to go down through the schedule of fees and talk about each one or each grouping of fees.
Well,
That's what we've
we
been
are, 'cause
doing.
we did the cabins
We
and
did
now
the
we're on the,
cabins,
Yep.
we're on the parking.
We're on the
fees.
parking, which is the next page.
And now we're gonna continue to work down through them.
Yeah,
So season passes.
I mean, I think we should just do what we've been saying, which is whatever we decide is the overall increase, somewhere between 10 and 20%, and then do a 30% discount off that for whatever the resident season pass
and
is.
that's what the software will allow, right? So we really can't do it a different way.
What page do you see the season passes?
It's Ononda parking fees.
Page do you see the,
Page 3.
It's the easiest, cleanest way.
Yeah, absolutely.
there is the option to do individual, but each individual
Yeah.
discount needs an individual coupon code.
We don't want to torture you with that. Let's just do.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll do.
So if you just
whatever.
have resident 30% coupon
Right.
code, bing,
Right,
right?
right.
And then each year we just change that one
Yep.
coupon.
Right,
code rather
right.
than having-
That seems the simplest process to
Right,
do.
but like if you did see one or two items that maybe don't fit that criteria, we could do that. It's just, we would have to have an individual coupon code for said item.
So season park renovation increased 20%.
If we're doing 20, that's what.
Whatever
we're
the
doing.
percentage is,
Yeah.
right?
I'm gonna go home and run with
Okay.
what the numbers are at 5% or at 10%, 15% and 20%, so.
I would be-
So you go home, you look at this, and then what are we gonna do?
January 8th, we vote on this at the organizational meeting, so.
So
So
don't you think we ought to come to conclusion here at this meeting as to what the increase should be?
We can, but I mean, that's
I
what,
think it's better
January
to
8th is when we
come back
always do
rather
it,
than
so.
Have a meeting where we don't look like we know what we're doing in front of the public, but that's.
Well, I would hope we'd be prepared by then to be able to say what we would like for our opinion
We
for
have a
the
lot
right
of
amount.
different Opinions, and we might end up having a whole lot of different conversation about it, but we can do it however you want.
I would like the opportunity to go home and see what these are with 10%, 15% and 20% up overall, because there's a lot of variance across the board with these. And then it's a simple discussion on January 8th, like it is every year, so what percent we're gonna
We
increase.
can agree on 30% increase or decrease for town residents.
Yes,
Everyone
that
agrees
we've
on
already
right?
agreed on, I
mean,
think, yeah.
Whatever the fee is, we're gonna reduce it. Just from a simplistic standpoint, it's gotta be some percentage off.
Yep.
Correct?
Yes,
So that you
For the
guys
coupon
are
code.
tortured with 35 different coupon codes.
So I guess at the organizational meeting, we can present a rate sheet that shows, and you would just vote on which rate sheet for the captains.
Yeah.
Would that be
Mhm.
okay and less confusing? Cause I see where you were at.
We did
You don't have
four
another chance to
different-
say, hey, this is what we decided on between now and then. But at least if, I guess if we just did, you know, like here were the,
Do a 10, 15, and 20%.
Yeah.
here were the options that you wanted us to research for the board to approve, and then you pick one. Does that seem a little more clean?
yeah, that'd be great.
But we're basing everything off the non-resident price.
Correct.
So
Yes,
that price
exactly.
is
Right.
Fixed
Yep.
already, so
Yep.
from that, it's either gonna be whatever,
Yep.
something.
10, 15,
Yeah.
20% increase.
Yeah.
And then-
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
I
we're,
mean, take
yeah,
it
I
up
mean,
20% or what,
Right,
we're gonna, what we're gonna
It'd be
increase is the
30% off
non-resident
the
price,
dis-
right? So we're gonna
whatever the-
increase that price, so
Yeah.
that,
if we took that up 20% and then give residents 30% discount.
the
is that
30%,
acceptable?
right,
That, if that's acceptable, then.
I think we're so inexpensive. Mark sent a thing
Yeah.
out. I mean, we're literally a third of the price of some
Mhm.
places.
I think taking it up, you know, like 20% for next year. Like I said earlier, take a look at this time next year, see what it did to us, take it up another 20 if necessary, but. To go up 30 or 40%
Yeah.
now, it might be a little.
Yeah, I'm not for that.
Shock, but
Yeah.
take it up 20 and give our residents 30% discount. Across the board, parking $10.
I could be comfortable with a 20, 30 now.
We also.
I
Okay.
think that's the,
Yeah, I'm comfortable with 2030.
okay,
Eliminate having to.
so I think.
rediscuss it. Okay.
Next-
Same with parking for seasonal pass.
So
20,
you would take the 65 up. What is that? You're gonna take that up 35% on parking right now.
65 would go up
65.
20.
Go up
would
20%.
Right, 20%, and then residents would be minus 30% off the
Mhm.
increase.
It would make it 78, but you could make it 80 and then.
yeah, I was
I
gonna
mean,
say, do you wanna round it?
Do whatever leeway to round it,
Maybe.
To round,
however makes
Yeah.
sense.
Okay, so we can make it $80 and then do 30% off that for the,
right.
okay,
Or you can
And
make
I'd round
it
those
75.
numbers too, 'cause-
Yeah. If it's possible to end in a 5 or a 0, that would be
Yeah.
wonderful.
okay, so
Just for
Round,
ease of
round up or
everything.
down,
round to
round up
a,
or down,
to a,
right?
a
Right,
round
Yeah,
down.
very change.
And
Or around,
it would be good to have the prior fee schedule available at the meeting as well, so that we can
Do
see
you
what we're
present the
changing.
red line when you do this, or do you present just the
Good
new?
question.
We can present we can present,
Red
I
line,
think
I
we should
think
present
makes
the
more
rest.
sense.
Cause that was something Crystalline and I were.
We know where
talking
we're
about.
coming from
Mhm.
and we know where we're going.
Yeah, I think we should do it
Okay.
as a red
We
line.
need to have the red line
Okay,
and then the new. 'Cause
Okay.
We're adopting the new for the change.
okay,
What was the final decision on the parking passes? No, the,
$80 or the 30%.
no, I
discount.
mean like the day passes.
I
It
think
was
5
10.
and 10.
Five
So
and
we're
10.
keeping the 5 then?
Yes.
Okay. That was the one.
Okay. All right, so we good on park reservations section?
So the lodges are the same. We will do the same thing with the halls. Is that what we're thinking? The
Mhm, yeah.
20% increase for the
Everything.
30%. Okay,
Same with daily.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
About 24 across the board.
Yep.
And then just do the round to make it a 5 or a 0.
okay,
My opinion, just
gotcha.
to make it easier.
Okay,
Okay, so then, I would figure before we got to development office, there was a discussion, about adding an event sponsorship. I know you had brought that up, Dave, at the last meeting, that they were, I thought maybe we would put that right here in the section with, on page 4 with tree sponsorships, bench sponsorships, alcohol permits at the bottom there.
No, yeah,
And add maybe an event sponsorship in there.
now, did we ever get word from Nadler on how
he said it was fine. It
we
would-
can pick
it-
and choose without,
It would be up to the town board to pick and
Okay.
choose if they thought something was
was
inappropriate, right?
inappropriate? Okay,
So would we be approving every event sponsorship, or would that be at the discretion of the town clerk's office when they kick it to the town board?
I think it would be at the discretion, in my opinion, discretion of the town clerk's office if they thought something was inappropriate to, or you could send it out. and
I mean,
say,
I don't think we're gonna get a lot of
No,
them, so we probably could, you know.
to the town board.
I mean, that takes away, I don't know, Heather, what do you think? I mean, I would think as a, you know, if I'm a town clerk, I'd kind of be like, where do I draw the line of, you know, does this need the approval of the town board, you know, and then you've got, they could get into some sort of trouble for it, you know.
Probably judicious to let the town board. do it.
I think so, with the small amount.
In talking to the Parks Committee and Mark, they have no intention of going out and soliciting sponsorships. So people have to go to the website, see the
Exactly.
sponsorship opportunity like they do with Parks and Benches
Mhm.
is available, write the check and.
And offer it.
Right.
so basically, the clerk could write a resolution to say, these sponsorships have, you know, have been presented.
Are
and then they
available.
would either be approved or denied by the board.
So the
Mhm.
sponsorship that they're talking about is for potentially 3 concerts and a movie night. So there's
Right.
4 events that they're essentially talking about. So that, they would have to put in some kind of timeline on that.
Sure,
Wherever, it's like, if you want to be an event sponsor for these summer programs, you would have to have your money in by, pick a date.
Sure.
And then that would close after a certain date. So if
Mhm.
somebody said, hey, it's now July, I want to sponsor, your opportunity exists next year for
Sure.
that. That's what I understood from
Mhm.
the Parks Committee.
right. Yeah,
We have
no,
more
so
than
what I'm
just-
saying is before those, whoops, before
Hang on,
those,
we can't see, I think that's Sarah, so hang on, sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
There's more than just parks events. I mean, the special events committee has events too. There may be other instances where people might want to donate.
So I don't disagree with you, but I don't think they've had any discussion on that, where Parks has. So if you were gonna sponsor like Halloween in Oronda, I mean, I think that's a good opportunity. There's tremendous costs with that. But I think that's their Parks is not in any control of that at all.
Well, I just said, I mean, like, if it's on the fee schedule as an event sponsorship, does it really matter which event? If the person wants to donate to a concert or a sock hop or, you know, Halloween at Ononda. I mean, we already do get donations for Halloween at Ononda.
Right, so when I was at the meeting in Parks, they had specific criteria that were gonna be like, if you donate to the sponsorship, you will be included in any kind of advertising we do for, they're really talking about concerts and movie nights. So if it goes beyond that, I think that someone, like, I'm sure Oksana would wanna visit that, and as part of the special events committee, and you know what I mean? If she wants to, I'm not saying no, I'm just saying that it's outside of what the scope of what the Parks Committee talked about for this specific issue.
Why
So it's a
is,
specific parks only event sponsorship.
Yes,
yeah, but
Okay.
why do we want to fix a dollar amount to it? And why do we even want to bring this up? I mean, if the park committee wants to go and, or an events committee wants to go and have an event and go out and solicit sponsorships, why do we care what it is and why it's on this
Because
sheet?
there was debate over named sponsors and the equity. Because the town Republican Party had donated. People got upset that the town Republican Party had donated, and I believe at the last one, the town Democratic Party did it, both groups and donated as named sponsors of the event. It created some conflict, so this is to clean it up. Cause then the conflict came back and it was something that we were dealing with on an annual basis. So this,
It would be a you would get, this is what you get for donating, specific this. You would be listed on all the advertisements of whatever.
I think you're gonna go and discourage donations.
They're not even gonna
If you
encourage
say, I
donations.
wanna be an event sponsor. Or I just wanna make a sponsorship,
but I mean, so,
I don't get it.
but I think we're kind of missing the donations for like, and the sponsorships. Are two different things. Sponsorship is you're the name sponsor. Anybody could donate if they want to give $100 to something,
Yeah.
but you're just donating and helping with the cause. You're not a named donation. You know what I'm saying with that?
So as an example, in the new billboard that's out now, concert, January or July 5th, sponsored by whoever sponsored it. That's what all the,
Different events are gonna require different amounts of money.
but
So if you have a concert, as an example, and you gotta pay a band to come in and put this on, and you gotta rent a facility, or you need to rent equipment. You know, your sponsorship might be at one level, and if you're gonna go and have a Halloween party at Ononda Park. Your sponsorship could be at a completely different level because your overhead is less.
right,
So
so
how do
what
you dictate that, or how do you regulate that? Or set
Parks
different
Committee
fees?
came up with this recommendation. That's how it was decided. So they've done concerts for the past 3 years. So they know the band costs $500, $750. We're still paying for it. They're not gonna cover it with
I
sponsorship.
understand that.
So-
but- So
So they're just trying to offset costs.
I understand that. So to my point. You're just talking about the bands and the concerts and you mentioned a lot of costs. Maybe the Halloween event doesn't have as much cost. So are you gonna have a name sponsor for, pick a number just for discussion, $500 at the concert and have a name sponsor of $300 for the Halloween event?
Well, that's why we're doing this, because we're trying to clean that out. So it'd be if you want to sponsor, it's $250.
That's my point.
So what are you saying? So we should we want to get $1,000 and $200 and give them the same
It might-
amount of exposure?
It might be different for the different events.
But we're not talking about Halloween or Honda. We can only talk about concerts and movie night, because this is what Parks has brought in front of us.
Okay, so this is specifically
Specifically-
related to
Parks,
parks.
right?
Because
So
I did hear the Halloween event
it's
being
not
mentioned.
totally
So
different,
then-
totally different.
I guess the
think
carryover, the discussion would be so special events wanted, say, Halloween at Ananda, Sarah, you mentioned the sock hop and other things they thought about. Then it would be up to the special events committee to say, we'd like to see if we can solicit sponsors to help offset the cost. Here's what it would cost, if you want us,
Exactly.
So
That's where they
that's
come to a
second tier.
recommendation.
so this will be just,
I mean, I don't have a problem with
Yeah.
a named event
Yeah.
sponsor. But I think somebody ought to be
Yeah.
recommending to us what that
For Ona-
named
for Ononda,
sponsorship
right.
should be, as opposed to us just picking a number out of the
Right.
air.
You're
So
really-
that's my point.
and this
Really
is
just
what part,
talking about events that would be held at outhouse. I mean, that's what,
basically, that's.
They're
what
not-
it is.
It's even,
the other
it's even
things we
more,
do are on us.
it's really
Right.
more concise than that. It's
Just
the concerts and the movie night. That's it.
Okay.
I mean,
So,
we could simply make it say, make a subcategory like we were talking about that says sponsorships. You can have bench sponsorship costs this, tree sponsorship costs this, naming rights for movie night costs this, naming night,
And then.
and list them individually.
Then we'll
They
add
back
on.
With Ononda and say, we'd like to solicit sponsors at 500 apiece.
Yeah.
Because we're
Yeah.
spending all
Well,
this money on.
And
camping.
we
Then we
can
can add
always
those, like,
amend the
yeah.
fee schedule and add, if they come up with something, we can be like, okay, they want naming rights for Halloween at Ononda. Do we want to do that? Yes, no, if so, this is what
Yeah.
costs.
So the reason we're
So-
doing this is because the Town of Canandaigua Republican Committee did just what you're all saying.
Yeah,
And
offered
a
it.
storm hit.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So if you do Halloween in Ononda and say the Democrats want to sponsor it, is the storm gonna hit then again? Because we have, someone has solicited that without giving it out. So if we put it on a fee schedule, here it is.
And I'm saying, I have no issue
Right.
with that concept. All my point is that someone who knows more intimately about these events and what the costs associated with them are,
Yeah.
ought to come to
Yeah.
us with a recommendation that says, we want to do a named sponsor for movie night, and that sponsorship would cost 300. And then we, as a committee and as a board, say, we agree with that.
We
So
can
they
add
have
that.
actually
That's-
just done
that's
that,
what they've
and this is what it is, $250.
Okay.
And we can-
Exactly what they're
And
saying.
so then other
The
committees,
First time I heard that.
if other committees then, say the special events committee want to look down the same road, then we can then add lines for
Absolutely.
sponsorship. Okay.
Yeah, so I think
So
let's,
250 was what you decided?
I didn't decide.
Or the
it.
Parks Committee, I'm sorry.
Right, right.
Parks
so let's
Committee.
make a
Okay.
new section that says sponsorships.
Yep.
We'll list bench, tree, instead of calling it event, let's say movie night, 250, and what was the other one?
Concert.
And concert sponsorship, 250. And then we can let our special events committee know that if they want to bring other ones in there to
Mhm.
discuss, they can put them in individually, so.
At $250.
No,
Whatever they
no,
want.
Whatever. Because their needs,
No, what's in front of us right now is this sponsorship.
yes, the 250 for yours.
We're all
Yeah.
saying the
And that
same
would,
thing.
no, I don't think we are, but then that is for the concerts and the movie night, all
Correct.
together, 250, end
Yep.
of story.
So
Okay,
they can.
You're not this movie night on this day.
So they're all
Yes.
for.
Oh, so you want them all together?
Yes, that's
Okay.
what that.
okay.
So that's
I think
fine.
That's what the parks.
Yeah, that's
I'm gonna
fine.
put,
Yep.
I'm gonna put Parks event sponsorship and I'll put movie night concert.
But the
Right.
point is, if,
That's
you know,
correct,
if April 1st, the special events committee wants to say, we want to sponsor for the 4th of July float.
Right.
And if they like it, we agree with it, we can add it on there.
I
It says
totally
4th
agree
of
with
July
that.
float
We
sponsor.
can
And
set
that's-
our rates.
Exactly.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
Okay,
But we've been a year and a half.
on this,
Doing
yes,
this now,
this took a
so
while.
you're aware of that,
Yes,
so.
this took a while. Okay, so development office. Welcome to our development office, friends. So,
We go back up to the credit card convenience.
Oh,
We didn't talk about that.
that's a fee that we pay. We just charge what we get charged, correct?
Right, it is 2.5%. And a 5-cent cart fee. The reservation fee is what Firefly charges us per reservation, and so we just push that back on to the guests.
So these are all pass throughs.
So then, my question is, should it just say 2.5%? Because that's what I just heard you say.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at that as well. I'm not really sure why it says 2% to 2.5%.
different credit cards sometimes charge different amounts, would be my guess.
This is the Firefly
Right, but it's
reservation. fee, right?
automatically put in there.
It's
to
automatically that, right?
take That amount, so
Okay.
it doesn't adjust. I don't believe, and I'm gonna double check, cause now I'm second guessing myself as to whether it's 2.45 or 2.5, because we have several different in the office, so I just have to verify that.
Okay. So great, confirm that.
Exactly.
So we're just charging
So it
whatever we
shouldn't-
get charged.
Right.
Yeah, whatever the
Yeah,
pass
it
on
should-
is, yeah.
Yeah,
Can we talk about facility alcohol? Are we gonna increase that 30 or? What do we say, 30?
Across the board, I think we were on 20. I
We're gonna increase that 20%?
think that's what
Because
we
it
were
was
talking about
permit.
across the board. Yeah.
Sponsorship, yeah.
Yeah, that's not on the sponsorships.
Mhm.
That's a permit.
So $120?
So 30 and then drop it. So
Mhm.
increase it 20% and drop it 30.
Yep.
Well, we-
it's not currently different.
Yeah.
It's not currently different, but do we want to make it different? Drop it 30? Be
Why-
consistent?
I think we should. I mean, I would think we would want to give some kind of benefit to town residents.
Yeah. I
I'm okay
think,
with that.
I think we should.
Does that do anything
keep
funky
consistency.
for the clerk's office?
I don't think so. no.
Okay.
It's, you're just gonna discount the resident rate.
Yeah.
The software will accommodate that,
And,
correct?
I mean, the alcohol permit doesn't even go through the software, so.
Oh, it
goes
doesn't?
through
Yeah.
different, we can do whatever.
And that makes it easier when we're talking, when people question it. we
Yeah,
can
so
say,
you get a
And I
30%
don't know
discount.
how often.
For 20%,
That anyway, because
30%.
it requires
There's no-
catering.
Yeah,
and all
you-
these
it-
other stuff.
You only get a couple a year and
Stuff
we
like
have to
that.
confirm all of them anyway, so.
Right.
So they have to include those.
Yes, we do. Mhm.
So
Yes.
I don't
That's what I
think.
just said.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's like,
I
we've
think-
had like
Yeah,
2 or
it doesn't
3.
happen often, just
It
because
just started when I came on the board and I think we've approved like 3 since I've
we
been. on
have a
board,
lot
so.
of people that ask about it, but then you tell them that it has to be catered by someone
Mm-hmm.
who's licensed to serve, and they're
Yep.
like, oh, no.
Yeah, our restriction, our law made it very restrictive.
Yeah,
Which is a really good thing as someone who had that license. It's a very good thing to have that where it is, so.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna leave the plaques and stones the same?
Yep.
Yeah, I think those are, yeah, pass-through type things.
Yeah, they were based on what they cost, so. Okay. Good for development office now? All right. Any comments from our guests that we have here from the development office?
I do. I'm not ready to talk about planning board, zoning board fees for applications.
Okay.
Right now. If we have recommended changes, I think it'll have to come after the January 8th meeting.
Okay. Okay,
So then does that comment hold true for all of page 5?
Sure.
Or up through short-term rental, or, I mean, what do we do?
So I guess,
I know Mike Murphy had some recommendations for the building permit fees. Short-term rental is not changing, as far as I know. That's just based on what it says in the law. I just haven't had time to go through like subdivision application fees, planning board fees, and so forth. So I don't have recommendations for those.
Okay, so my only question is, and I understand that, sir, that takes us down to where? Short-term rental registration?
it's site plan construction building permits. You see that where it says, single family residential?
Yeah.
From then on, that's all.
Okay, so above that is the recommendations from the zoning office? Planning and zoning? Yeah.
Some
And
of it's a little bit mixed in, but
TBD?
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right, so, I did an Excel spreadsheet of 7, 8 different municipalities. Including
you.
our own, so I'll pass that along after this. But I did hand pick which ones that just fit best. So Victor, Farmington, Hopewell, and then I went out towards Monroe County, Harrington, Pittsford, areas like that, areas that I
Comparables.
felt more represented us. Believe it or not, we're actually on par with a lot of this stuff. So not a huge difference here. The biggest thing that I'm recommending is that we expand upon the fee schedule. Right now, it's very generic, and from a code's perspective, it gets a little tough when we're trying to explain to a resident that we understand it's a fence, but it's $50 because that's just what we have in a listed section. So kind of creating it more specific. I actually have,
So. In summary, are you gonna come back to us with a recommendation?
yep, that's, I got it
You got it right there.
right here.
Okay, beautiful.
I just didn't have time to pass it out. Sorry, we had a meeting with another.
Add categories, like you just,
Oh,
your
there's-
example.
More.
Oh, there's
So,
more.
no, we're
Oh,
also
it's all
going
one
up a
thing.
little bit.
Okay.
It actually factors out to, we charge by the square foot. What I put in was a minimum, as well as upping the
Did you grab one?
spent amount by 5 cents. Yeah, sorry, it's a package.
Oh, there's a whole package?
Yep, I apologize.
We'll pass them.
Yeah, enough keeps that.
Oh, so
I do.
you,
Oh, I got enough.
you've broken it out by dwelling type.
Yes.
Okay.
So what
It
we
is
have,
actually-
So you've got 1 and 2 family dwellings, multiple dwellings, commercial.
Conversation. Can we all get this, please?
I'm trying to
sorry,
help you find it before you.
I had a meeting right before this.
That's
All
it. You're okay. Doing good.
So
How many
each
more do we need?
page is a different type of dwelling unit.
right,
One more for Terry.
all right, perfect. Got just enough. All right, so right now, currently, the way that we have it listed is, again, it's very generic. The biggest one is currently we have it listed for a single family residential. It lists construction, expansion, structural alteration, and accessory structures. I broke that out and put a higher minimum. When I did the math for our department, it pretty much came out to $75 is our
Okay.
cost basis per inspection, okay? That factors in the time that we do our plan reviews, to the actual vehicle driving out there, to the amount of time that we spend on site, which can range. But generally, it's about 30 minutes to an hour per inspection. And then I use that as my basis to say, okay, a new residential structure. On average, we have about 15 inspections. A fence, we do a quarter of an inspection. We drive by it's done.
Mhm.
A roof, we do 2 inspections and kind of built it off like that
Mhm.
while
Perfect.
still remaining within that average for all the municipalities.
So you build it off of what it's actually costing the town to do.
Yeah.
Great.
And I wanted to
That's
start
awesome.
there because if it's easier to scale back,
Yeah.
obviously.
Mhm.
So the first page, again, I put minimums in. That $400 minimum, I know that scares a lot of people, but
Mhm.
that's actually at those rates. That's the minimum dwelling size. So $400 is 1,200 square foot dwelling. Our minimum dwelling size is 1,100. So factor in a little bit more there just to, again, plan reviews.
Yeah.
Again, we split it out just based off of the additions, the conservation, conversion of non-habitable space. That's where we kept it the same, because that's, in my opinion, there's a lot less inspections with those. Same with the remodel, that's very simple, that happens every day. Normally, it's about 3 or 4 inspections. So kind of just going along, you're gonna see the same for the multiple dwellings and the commercial. It's a 5 cent raise, keeping everything the same as far as the smaller stuff. I did pull the accessory structures out because a lot of times people buy prefab structures and just place them. That's very simple from a codes perspective because it's a zoning permit. We're not actually looking at the construction. We just go out, visualize that it's in the right place, and we sign off on it. See.
Why you, for a
Yep,
second,
go ahead.
I just want to say, I think you've done a very good job on this,
Thank you.
and I want to just congratulate you on that. I think you did a great job. Thank you for doing this.
Just what we need.
So that kind of short synopsis takes care of single family, two family dwellings, commercial and multifamily. I want to take your attention to page 4 because that's where it gets really different from what we've been doing. Manufactured homes right off the bat, that is by far the simplest things that we can do as a code enforcement officer, because the state has already licensed the manufacturer, the installer. We just go to visually inspect and ensure compliance. We're not doing plan reviews. We're not doing site assessments, anything like that. And again, that $400, that's the minimum dwelling size fee. So I figured just one flat fee because a manufactured home
They're only gonna get
still
so
has to
big,
meet
yeah.
that big, and they're only gonna be double wides.
Yeah.
So again, everything else is the same through there, but that's the real big change is instead of doing a square footage based, it's a flat fee because it's very simple for us to look at. The general, the pools, we're keeping the exact same. The one recommendation that our office is having is including fences or decks, and putting a square footage on that.
Do they do any sort of inspection to see if there was damage to existing sidewalks when a pool is put in? That happens in my neighborhood a lot.
No.
Okay.
Say that
because
again, please, Evelyn.
damage to existing sidewalks when a pool is put in, that happens all the time in my neighborhood. So where they won't properly protect the sidewalk, right next to James, there's
Oh,
one.
they gotta,
So,
well, wouldn't they have to go and repair that to existing conditions?
but that's what I'm saying, I
They're
don't,
not doing,
they're not doing it,
Yeah,
so.
that's one of those things that be honest with you, I haven't even thought about.
Mhm.
So, but that's a good note. I'll definitely put that on our list for inspections.
Okay,
That way we kind of just get a photo of the
Yeah.
sidewalk area and then it's secured in the property file should anyone need it in the year to come. Our recommendation again is on the fences and the decks. The reason for that is New York State code actually requires a barrier to be in place. Currently, we've been requiring applicants to get 2 separate permits. You get a permit for the pool and then a permit for the fence. Well, you can't get the pool without the fence, so instead of that, it's just, let's make it simpler.
Mhm.
Same with a 200 square foot deck, it's an above ground pool.
What I don't see though is what happens if it's over 200 square feet?
At that point, and that's 200 square feet, I saw that on other municipalities. At that point, it would go towards the regular accessory structure where it goes to that 10 cents a square foot.
so it'd be 75 minimum.
Yeah, 75 minimum.
Okay.
So if you wanted to do a 600 square foot deck,
Yep.
then it would not be classified underneath that.
Okay.
We'd include that 200 square feet in this permit. We would just say 400 square feet, that's what you would start. Exactly.
Good.
Signs, we did pull that out from each section, because that just got very confusing.
Mhm.
Sarah, you can chime in on this, because we've had a lot of discussion on the
Signs.
signs. There's one set fee for all of them,
Mhm.
while also pulling out the directional signs. Okay. Directional signs are something that is kind of within the confines of a facility. They're needed, they're required. That's how you know how to get through a plaza, and it's not actual advertising signage. They're more public safety signage is how we have described them.
Yeah, and
Oh, go ahead.
some, for example, some larger, especially companies in our industrial district have many, many signs that are directional. And they can really rack up fees on that, and it requires a lot of review on, like Mike said, things that are just safety or directional or, yeah, it seemed unnecessary.
Agreed.
Going down demolition, we just straight across the board. It's an accessory, single family, and then multifamily or commercial. It's a flat fee. It's very simple. We do 3 inspections on those.
We
So-
don't require a demolition permit at this point, do we?
We do.
We do.
Any structure that's gonna be demolished,
Okay.
56 square feet and above.
I've talked to other communities where they actually have committees that review whether or not there should be an allowed demolition of a historic structure, for example.
And
So,
so that's listed in our category. When we get a demolition permit, we actually go through and we check Encore, we check the National Historic Society, which we only have one,
yeah,
Cheshire Grange. And we also check with a town historian to go through and cross-check, see if there's any issues. If there are, then we put a pause on it. And then it goes back to the historical committee.
And
We had recently.
just to clarify, we don't tell someone they cannot demolish a house just because it's old or has historical value. I mean, like he said, we only have one that's listed on the National Register. The
most
local
do.
history team goes through and if given permission prior to demolition, they take pictures and document the structure so that there's a story. And that there's, at least there's a nice record of the home or whatever it is prior to demolition.
Agricultural structure, that's very basic. That's the agricultural data statement. They come in, they fill that out. Basically, that means they're exempt from building codes as well as any zoning law, plan review, etc. So that's more administrative. That's why that's 50 basic. Fences, as discussed, the residential is 50. The reason why commercial is 100 is because we do get into fire code issues with commercial fences, so a little bit more time goes into it.
What about like is that like a horse fence, I have a horse farm, you put an additional pasture in a wire fence, do I have to get a permit for that?
That would be considered agricultural.
So,
So you would not need it for that. Town code actually dictates when you need a fence permit and when you don't. Anything that has to do with agricultural, horticulture, anything such as that.
so even though it might be a commercial business, as an agricultural, you're exempt right away.
Exactly. As long as it's, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, it's the recognized agricultural district areas. It's a recognized farm. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, it's the use too, right? So like if it's a horse field or cattle field or whatever, then yeah, it's not, it doesn't need a permit, but if you're putting a fence in your backyard on your farm for your pool or whatever, I believe that would still need a permit because that's not an agricultural use.
Right, no, I understand that, I mean, there's some huge pastures that are put in,
yeah,
that they're just exempt from an agricultural standpoint.
yeah.
Right.
And that goes back to ag and markets law and we're stuck there. Solar, we did the look at, that's still up in the air department area because the per kilowatt's actually very tough to calculate. For example, the new solar facility on County Road 10, they don't know. Cause it's based on, this is what we can do. So it's
Based on the maximum,
kilowatt that could be generated.
so that should,
Yeah, that's one that we've really I gotta talk to another municipality.
couldn't we base that on our tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 that we have in our solar law?
We can, and that's kind of what we're thinking about. It's just, how do we then factor the costs and figure that so
Mhm.
that we're fair?
Yeah.
And For example, another municipality, they just don't want large solar, so they went sky high.
Yeah, I think that would probably be in agreement with us too.
So,
Okay.
Is it just 550 per kilowatt?
yep,
Is that what is maximum
that's what the
theoretical output is?
theoretical output. Currently, we're at $5 per kilowatt. So just again, keeping with that, a 50-cent increase, and then the small scale solar residential is 100. So
Yeah,
upping
that's
it
good.
50. Yeah,
And this is based on your number. I mean, there's quite a few inspections that would,
Yeah.
on those large
Oh, yeah.
thing where you,
exactly.
we wanna not, we wanna at least break even. right?
Exactly, and that's the small, this is actually the perfect example of small scale solar. Everything is done by a design professional. We can't approve it without stamped plans. So we go out, we say, yep,
That's
it's
right.
done.
Yeah.
We get the electrical inspection and it's purely administrative work on our
Mm-hmm.
end. The engineer has to go back out and they actually approve it.
Mhm.
Small scale would be like roof mounted or?
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, I had that done and it was, Dale drove by, he said hi to me and.
Mhm.
It's there.
Doing it, right, it's all done.
It was
right?
all.
Your guys are doing it, right?
Yeah, it's just, we have more on the front end for the administrative side of the
Right.
code. Finally, the last page, super simple. These are more of the administrative stuff. Renewal fee, currently it is 50. Let me double check that. Oh, I apologize. Yeah, I want to say it's 50. We're now gonna switch to a 1/3 of the original cost. That's just because, again, time. We have to double check that everything still meets current code, everything, and plus it's making sure that people actually call for inspections and get their CFOs when they're required, and we're not letting permits expire. We did do a no-show or covered prior to inspection recommendation. This would be $50 per inspection at the discretion of the CEO, the code enforcement officer. This happens quite often where we will go and a house is completely built and they've done 3 inspections out of 15. So kind of trying to put that responsibility back on the developer, back on the homeowner to say someone needs to call for inspections. Because we don't want to be the bad people that says, hey, your drywaller just put up drywall throughout your house. I need to see that insulation, I need to see the mechanical, I need to see the plumbing. Remove it,
Mhm.
remove it all. So this is kind of more of that, hey, just so you know, on the front end. If you don't call for inspections, if you cover up, if you do this, there's a $50 per inspection that we cannot complete.
So your example of 3 and 15. It would be $600 for those 12 that.
Of course, at the discretion of
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
CEO, so that we're fair. And there are instances where that happens, so. But they get cleared.
Of course, those 12 inspections are a fraction of the cost of ripping all the wall.
Yeah.
All the walls
Exactly.
down, yeah.
Yeah.
definitely.
So that wouldn't foster someone not getting inspections, say, I'll just cover the fee,
Nope.
I don't, so,
No, it's more of a penalty.
right, so you're still gonna pull stuff off, or,
Yeah, they still
Exactly.
would.
Yeah,
Just-
because a lot of times, because then you're adding
Right.
more steps,
right,
because now we've got to go back. We've got to go and talk with your engineer. We
Right.
have to find a path.
Cost you money and time, yeah.
Exactly.
Mhm.
The compliance permit, that's 2 times the permit amount. That is purely. You did something without a permit. This happens a lot recently with signage. Signs get put up, they don't get permits. Again, more of that initial, hey, watch out, here's the ramifications for you. I did not put a limit on there. A lot of municipalities put a limit on there that. Municipal directors go through, town board, city council, they'll say, hey. Code enforcement, we're gonna put a maximum on this so that it's capped at $800 as a penalty fee. So no matter what the permit fee is, it cannot be more than 800 or whatever. That's totally up to what this board feels.
What's the max we would be at that 2 times? I mean, what are we?
So 2
what's your
times
experience? I mean, and
if-
the average.
signs. So if you did signs, it'd be $400. That'd be your permit fee. 2 times that. So really, it's not a whole lot. We're not having houses put up without permits. We catch those. It's really signs being put up.
Okay.
But if they had
Sheds.
5 signs that they put up without, it
Yep.
could be.
fence too, probably fences can put. up
Fences.
time.
Yep.
Okay,
Stop work order release, we did up that drastically. It is currently $100. As Jim knows, $100 is nothing to a lot of these developers. So I had one gentleman say, I'll just write the checks because it's easier than doing what you want.
It's $250, you know?
Currently with the situation that we have, I'd actually say. Put a step scale in there, 250 for the first one, 500 for the next, 750. That came up this week, so that's a recommendation I had not had.
Change
before.
that for January
Yep.
too.
You wanna put that in there?
I can put that in.
Yeah.
So it increases by the original amount every
Yep.
time.
Double each time.
Doubles each, double, you want it to double each time?
Hey,
I agree with that, right?
250, 500, 1,000.
Yeah,
2,000.
Doubles, that you put some meat in it, they're just gonna, yeah, they're gonna.
Okay. Yeah.
Look at you, Jim's so happy
yeah.
now. This is better than a back truck for Jim.
Gentleman just called me this morning and said, hey, I want to release my stop work. I said, okay, well, someone's got to pay the fee. How much is it? $100. He's like, I'll just send my son down. Okay.
Alright.
So,
You're getting a kid.
no. The kid has it.
I mean, we need
Small amount.
employees, but.
I don't need that. Takes a lot to train someone. Operating permits are new. Currently, we have them, but they're just viewed as unlisted. This would go through and kind of split it out. Assemblies are done every 3 years. Currently, the operating permit is $100. They get done every 3 years, but we do $300. Your assemblies are your large people gathering places, okay? So think of your churches, think of your event centers, stuff like that. We are recommending a process for tax exempt properties to apply for a waiver. All right, I be honest, that's a personal thing that I put in there. Another municipality recommended it to me and it's very helpful because your churches.
Some small church, you don't wanna whack. them with
Exactly.
$50. Yeah.
Yep.
I agree.
Yeah. Hazardous occupancy, those get done every year, but there are a lot of administrative steps for that. In particular, we have one of the larger ones is, I'm blanking, fireworks, young.
Yeah, over in New
Yep.
Michigan.
So we go every single year. We have to have the state report sent to us. There's a lot of just backtracking, paperwork, administrative. Tents and pyrotechnics, we can post quite a lot and it's more, again, one visit, administrative. We did up soil erosion control area. Everything is currently $100 or $850. So soil and erosion is currently $150, up it to $200. MS4 acceptance is currently $100, up to $150. We are changing the site development permit. Currently, that is $100. We're proposing or recommending that we do $100 per acre of disturbance. Because I'll be honest with you, I go out once a
lot
week.
more, yeah,
It's a lot of work.
different for a house than a housing complex. yeah.
Exactly, and with the new site design criteria, we're gonna have a lot more of those
Mhm.
for road work going in prior to us
Mhm.
generating building permits. So this way, we're at least getting something on the front end. And basing it off the project. So floodplain development, $50. Communication towers, we currently don't have anything listed for those. This was a recommendation by another municipality, $5 per foot in height. And then newer replacement antenna on an existing tower is $75 per unit. Again, for the antenna, it's a single site visit. We go out when they're putting it up, double check everything is safe, it's good. The height,
What do we charge now for a communication power?
unlisted.
Pardon me?
So,
Unlisted.
Nothing.
So it's $100. Yeah.
So I think it'd be commercial, let me just log in real quick. I apologize. It is. Yeah, $100. So by doing this, for example, the newest tower is 196 feet,
Would be just under $1,000 versus.
$980.
When they're generating
So-
revenue off of those, so it's only fair.
And we'll be out there a lot.
So 100 was a bargain.
Yep, exactly. So that's it.
Thank you for putting
thank
that
you,
all
yeah,
together. I really
of course.
appreciate it. I think, every year we should probably have something in November, December, where we just do a quick run through, make sure we're covering our costs at the least of these things. So that breakdown is really helpful. Thank you.
And I'll send out the Excel spreadsheet to everyone as well. So I just wanted to do the recommendation first
No, thank you.
so that you had a basis to look at it.
Thanks, it's fantastic, but I mean, you really.
No, it's a long
Thank you.
time.
Appreciate it.
It's a long time to do.
It's just gonna be more specific. People don't.
Exactly.
Exactly.
It also
There's no
helps,
questions.
I mean, there's things on that list, you know, as somebody who's not a builder, where I wouldn't even know for sure from the prior list if I needed a permit, and this makes it much more clear where I need it.
And that's where I've talked with Francesca, we're kind of gonna start doing a public relations or information with the newsletter and everything else, saying, hey,
Yeah.
you're replacing your hot water heater, you know you need a permit for that, right?
Mhm.
Little things, so just to help out the public,
Mm.
so.
This is probably a good point to interject. There were one thing I forgot to mention, when we're doing the entrance fees for parking at the Wananda and other parks. Do we want to make that, waive that fee for handicap accessible vehicles?
Hmm.
The state and federal parks all come down to waive it. They waive fees.
Yeah, we should.
I think so.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, no problem.
And then the other comment, and this is a good part of our discussion, to probably interject this, is the thing I have heard the most complaints about is our engineering review costs.
I was actually gonna bring that up because I did note in Mike's spreadsheets, I didn't see consultant fees,
Well,
see town chapter 11
Yeah.
Before
anywhere.
we move on, can I just plant one seed? I just wanna go back to what you shared. I think as a board, we need to think about where we wanna be on the large scale solar beams.
Mhm. I
If we
agree.
want to take any more steps to make them the application more expensive.
Mhm.
I
support that.
think our discussion,
I think most of us.
our
support
informal discussion has been down that road,
that. Mhm.
but
Yeah, we did our local law that we.
Yeah.
Last iteration of it, we really.
we really curtailed it, but I
The
think,
ordinance, we
and this
made
would,
it more difficult.
Yeah.
and the fees would help reiterate that.
Yeah,
And that's one area that I really, that's why I've got a time set up with another
Yeah, so
municipality
if
to
you
be like,
can figure that and see where
generate.
they are
yeah.
and some others and just.
I think, yeah,
think
the
it's
discouraging the
well
large scale, I think we've already voted as a board to discourage large scale essentially, so I
Yeah,
think
so
we have
if you-
agreement on
I
that.
think
Of course.
if you brought back a higher fee schedule for that,
Of course.
it would be received very well.
You said you did reference it. Some municipalities that really how
Very
hard
much
did
so.
they take that?
I had one that you could build a house. I swear you could build a house. It was based off of number of panels and it was about
Mhm.
$3,000 per panel.
Yep.
You're talking 250 panels, yeah,
So.
they don't have any solar facilities.
Well, but that's the thing, I mean, for a large scale, right? I
For
want to
large
encourage
scale,
people to
right.
put them on their roof or help with their farm, whatever. The large scale only is where the,
So, yeah, in
issues.
conjunction with your tiers, I like that idea.
Yeah.
It's a tier one.
yeah, I think that's how we can probably do it, is a tier, because it's the tier, the 1 and 2s are fine.
The
you
tier
know.
substantiates what size technically, right? Like
Exactly,
in-
and that's already in the code, so.
Yeah.
so.
Mhm.
Large,
So I have had people complaining to me about our engineering review fees, that they seem to be very excessive. And, you know, the question I have is, if we have one engineer stamping a drawing and saying this is adequate, what do we need another engineer going and reviewing the documents for? But I understand there could be some review relative to code and making sure that it fits within our ordinances. But as a complaint I've heard, more often than not.
Is it from people building homes or more development side or both?
I would say both.
Yeah.
I would say both.
I mean, I send those out and I don't have any explanation really for what the services that are provided. So I usually pass it along to Sarah, just because she's kind of the funnel and she then usually forwards that information if she has questions
Yeah,
on it too, but I feel like they have kind of.
From my own personal experience, I thought it was an exorbitant cost for review of my home when I was building it. And I have had that kind of feedback from builders in our community also.
Mhm.
Saying that the review fees that our consultant is charging are exorbitant.
Doesn't seem to stop it though.
I don't, I
I think
think
it's
we
fine.
need it. We wanted to, they go review many things through the site plan that
Yeah.
are provided that are not identified as issues.
I'm
When
wondering-
ours identifies issues or
I don't
potential issues. They also identify a lot of stormwater. You don't want one engineer who has a stamp to say, yeah, this works,
I agree.
when
No
it
question.
doesn't work.
But I guess my point is, or my question is more. Should we do some type of fixed fees, just like we do here?
Oh, it's based
I don't
on the
think-
amount of time it takes for the
Right.
people to review, so I don't know that you could. I don't know how I mean, every house isn't equivalent, so you say, okay, everyone is $500 or whatever.
And
They're
then
all
when you-
different, they all have different issues. so
And when you come in with revision over and over, which we've dealt with
Well, you could-
developers,
You could charge for each revision, just like we do other things, right?
you could, but.
What are your thoughts?
So I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on this because it's a common misconception. My department doesn't actually incur any engineer fees a lot of times unless it relates to stormwater, SWIP, those type of inspections. We do all of our own point reviews. We do all of that. The only time that I send stuff out to Lance or MRB is usually, hey, this house, I have some concerns with the soil and possible settling issues. Can you look at this geotechnical report that is well above my knowledge basis and respond back to me? And sureties. For the longest time, Chris Jensen was doing sureties less than $20,000. MRB took that over when he left. I actually am in communication to kind of take that back just because of the same complaints. I don't want a homeowner building a house to incur $500 in engineer fees to review $1,000 surety. That's simple. We can easily do that. So, but they do have to review the $20,000 ones, anything above that, because that's generally the large scale developments that.
A large house.
Yeah, I've got no idea what 6-inch pipe costs, so that's where they come in.
Do we know what the discrepancy is? I mean, we're not the only municipality that faces that deals with this. I
No,
mean, how do we relate to others in the area?
I don't. I think we're looking out for our community, that people have
Yes.
correct structures built.
We need the
and
correct
stormwater
structures.
put in, and sanitary or septic tanks are correctly installed.
And we don't want to subsidize it by
I don't know.
lowering
I
the
don't-
fees.
Yeah, and then what are you gonna do? Gonna tell
Yeah.
everybody they got halfway through a review, go, well, I spent my money, so we're done.
Yeah.
I don't think, Jim, anybody is, I'm certainly not arguing that we don't need them. My point is that, I'm wondering if we could have more of a structured.
Judicious review when
Yeah.
to bring it in.
I think a lot of it, at least the complaints that I get, tend to be people that don't even realize that
Could cost that.
they're going to get engineering fees. So I don't know if there's a way to make that a little bit more transparent. I mean, it's on the fee schedule, but it just says see town code chapter 11. But
It's
Yeah.
also in their application, they have to acknowledge that they've read it and it explains it. And it
does.
explains that it's an engineering fee or a legal fee, because we get bills like that from our town attorney as well. So it's not just MRB group.
That's true.
Yeah.
But yes, I mean, people don't read that. They just click the acknowledgement and move on and then complain when they get the bill.
That's
There was
pretty
a
normal.
time in the town when we ate most of those costs.
And we can.
That
That's
would
why
be
And you're not, I know you're
exorbitant.
not
There's
saying.
no way.
It took years to get to the point that
Yeah.
we're at, and I would not back away from
No.
that.
Well, that's probably why you're getting complaints then. If we used to eat it and we're not eating it anymore, that's
But I think,
obvious
yeah,
to people, so.
If I get what
yeah.
John's saying, I think that's. We gotta find that meeting, we gotta find, is there a middle more, can we find that sweet spot where we're meeting our needs, we're protecting ourselves, double checking everything. But are there's times when it's might be overused, or there's,
And
It's
maybe
almost like
just,
writing a blank check.
yeah.
maybe this
That's-
discussion would be better had with meeting with MRB to find out. Maybe what they are doing exactly, what they are charging for, what they, just so it's
Yeah.
more, if it's more clear to us of what we are, charging back to the person,
They
then.
They charge for when they prepare resolutions for the planning board. They charge for a review of a site plan for things that we don't review internally, like what Jim and Mike said, like stormwater and stuff like that. They charge for attendance at the meetings, and they charge for some of the stuff on the end, like when someone turns in final site plans, depending on the significance of the project, we have them review it again at the end. And they do sometimes catch things that were supposed to be on there that weren't, or changes that were made. And then, the applicant didn't tell us they were making those changes. So things like that. What the amount they charge, MRB usually lets us know every year if their fees are staying the same for the upcoming year, and it's an hourly rate. Lance Braven is the main, our main person, but so his fees are a little higher. There are other employees at MRB that can do the reviews, and they are aware of that, and they do try to use the less expensive reviewers when they can. They know that we get complaints, because if I can't answer a question, I reach out to Lance and I say, can you fill me in a little bit on the history of your review for this project? And then I send it back to the homeowner or the applicant, whoever it was who asked the question. And I agree with Jess. I think the main complaint is that people want to understand what the fee is and who's charging it. We do not have a town engineer on staff. We contract with an engineer. So that's why the charges are different. So if you guys decided you wanted to do a set fee, this fee for commercial, this fee for development, this fee for a house, or so forth, you could certainly decide to do that, but there would likely be the leftover cost that the town would then be paying on their own.
But you just raised an interesting point, I think. Do you think MRB receives enough fees from this process on a yearly basis for the town to hire their own engineer?
Oh, I would.
I
not go that
actually
way.
had the same question I actually posed myself to Doug and a couple other people. The thing is that the engineers, I think I talked to Jim about it, the engineers, they focus on so many various
Exactly.
things that,
Have a wide-
soil, right? So you'd have to, you couldn't hire just one person. You-
Made discipline.
Correct, you have
We got
like the
whole-
Yeah.
An
geomapping,
architect, yeah.
surveying, yeah.
Look at our
We consider
insurance
that,
requirements for that, because then we assume errors and omissions. Like
I think
Yeah.
just
changes we have to.
the disciplines answers that question.
But what we
Yeah.
could
Yeah.
do, we probably could, they probably could come up with, here's what the typical, here's an idea of what you could expect for some of these, if you're building, if you're building a house, this is the range of what most people see in the fee range. for the
That
engineer.
scares me, because then you're promising a number that you
No.
can't necessarily, keep.
But that's the only way you're gonna answer this question is to
It
have a
depends on
number.
what they see.
And
while they're
yeah.
doing the
I know,
analysis.
I know,
They could tell you it's gonna be 3 hours, and because they
Right.
uncover something, they have to do more research,
Mhm.
it becomes.
but
5
that's,
hours.
I think that's the only way people would be, that's the only way to fix the issue of the unknown is. And then you're gonna have that point where, well, we said it's gonna be 1,500 and we got into this issue and now it's 3,000.
It'd be easier to just say, the average hourly rate for our town engineer is 230 or whatever it is for Lance,
Yeah, you could say that,
so.
and just say that, whatever the average, you have to be very careful of that, is 2 to 3 hours, so.
No, I wouldn't
cost
even,
could
I
be,
wouldn't even say it. I'd just say the average hourly rate is
So, I mean. Depends also on who's making the call, if it's the individual that's actually paying to have the house built,
Mhm.
or it's the person building the house for them.
Yeah.
Does that person always pass along all the information to the customer?
Well,
Yeah.
I know in Lakewood Meadows,
don't.
that doesn't always occur.
according to
Oh.
our,
Ever.
according to town code chapter 11, I believe that it states that the property owner is the responsible party.
Yes, they are.
That's not always who
Exactly.
pays, but
Yes.
that's who gets the bill.
Yes, in the end, yes.
How many of
That's
that
right.
read chapter?
No, exactly, I get
Okay,
it.
so I'm gonna move on for this, because I'm actually supposed to leave half an hour ago, so, but can we get into the water department section
Wait,
now?
really quick, just a quick little update. I know short-term rental registration is like in the middle, or my page is out.
It was earlier,
They
yeah.
come out.
Earlier.
Okay, So can I just, I'm just saying on the actual fee schedule, can I just like move this to after somewhere else?
Oh, yeah.
It's
Whatever
not
makes
mixed in
sense.
with the dwelling.
You could just put short-term rental right after solar if you want to.
Okay.
You know, on the new, the
Or-
recommendation where I had the general, my plan was to put it right up top.
Okay,
Of
and
the
then
general.
and then I'll have to add the blurb about the consultant fees, cause I didn't see it.
Yeah, I didn't.
Okay. Is that the only thing that's taken out, or I could go over that with you later?
Yeah, I'll go over that with you, cause
Okay.
there's a few things.
Okay, water department, Jim, Mr. Water
So-
Supervisor.
Yeah, figure the biggest change you're gonna see overall in this is, your water rate per thousand going into 24. The other numbers for meters. Are staying the same. Meter pits are staying the same, the electronic replacement is staying the same. Rental billing go up to 1,700. The water rate for the hydrant rental is $750. Then we get to the water charges, due to our new agreement with the city, we had a 13% increase, and what I propose is just to take that and pass it through to our town of East Bloomfield, which will go to $3.79. Then understand that the town of Hopewell, town of Farmington, and Gorham will be that $2.49, 45 cents, sorry. And that is the wholesale rate from the city, and all we do there is just a pass through. We don't have to pump it, we don't store it, we don't chlorinate it, we don't test it. It's just a meter at the municipal line.
So it's literally a pass through.
The water rate, the back, it goes from 529 to 598 per thousand. And the Bristol's gonna go from 597 to 675.
And that's again, based on the city.
Yeah, 13% increase. So,
Can you redline this for
yeah,
January?
well,
That'd be great, thanks.
it's one of the issues, my computer, so
It's okay.
it didn't work.
I had already printed it anyway, so it
Okay.
doesn't matter.
So the labor rate for straight time will go up to 57, overtime 105, and administrative at 95. And the heavy equipment will stay the same as the 2022 FEMA rates. That's it for one. The transfer station has not proposed to make any decisions. We have not received any increase. So, and we're usually do pretty well on.
It's covering our costs.
Yeah.
Okay. I think you made some changes to that last year, so, yeah.
Oh, minor, I take it here and there.
Yeah. Did we, and we removed, like, it was a state law, right? But we removed the electronic ticket requirement, right? Did you do any PR on that in the newsletter?
I remember.
You should. That's a good one to do some, I mean, even though the state kind of handed it to us, you might as well be like, and now you don't have to pay for disposal. Yeah, if we didn't, you should put it in there, because that's a, you know, a lot of people don't know about that, so. It's a nice thing. Here's something you don't have to pay for. Yeah.
We'll see how long they stay in business.
Yeah,
That's the
you mean
other
a
part.
state program is not working? Okay, sorry, anyway. Town clerk, do you have any thoughts? I don't know if this isn't really your deal, Heather, but I didn't know if you had any thoughts, so.
I got an email this morning about dog
So,
licenses.
do we wanna, so we renewed our dog license and there was some debate came from Phelps. As to whether they're alleging they're saying they're being overcharged the last 3 or 4 years of their dog license. That their fees aren't keeping up with the county fees and
Yeah.
and the county is charging them differently than the dogs that they're actually licensing every year. So we need to watch that.
I
Okay,
guess
Next year to see
I
where we
didn't
are.
really understand what they meant. So the county,
So the
Charging
county,
us.
the county assesses us a dog fee.
and that's
Based on-
based on the number of
based on how many
dogs.
It'd
dogs.
be
are
based
in
on the
there.
number of dogs. Phelps was alleging that
Those,
our fee was
Numbers.
$18,000, but we only had $12,000 worth of dogs.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. I was like, how does the county come up with that?
$6,200 more every year. for these dogs that
Subsidizing
you said
beyond the
that we have that
dogs.
we
Yeah.
don't.
Mhm.
I mean, that essentially goes to fund the shelter and all that. Are our fees enough
Shouldn't,
for the dog?
if we're
fees?
just being charged per dog by the county, shouldn't we just charge the people whatever we're being charged, like a pass through?
Well, that's basically what,
basically-
that's
Plus a
what
little
Gene had
couple
been
extra
saying.
cents for
We don't-
administrative fees?
Yeah, I mean, we have this, isn't it some of an increase?
Mhm.
But with what the state takes and everything, it's not that much.
Okay.
I mean, it barely covers the costs that we have, but we have to send to the
I
county.
have to go. Can you run the rest of the meeting? I'm sorry
So-
with you.
I'm the only remaining committee member.
I'm sorry.
Are you okay with, any thoughts on that? Leave it, keep it, change it?
I think we should always cover our costs, whatever our cost is.
I mean, I can definitely look at this with Crystalline to see if we have enough information to make a
Information. to make the
decision on whether it
decision.
needs to be.
Yeah,
Cause I'd have to look, to see what our contract amount is. I'm sorry, I should have known that, but, and then,
and I can't.
cause I guess I
remember.
didn't realize how they calculated that.
Yeah.
So, okay.
And the way it's always been explained is that, the only thing that Gene was trying to do was make sure that we brought it
Well,
enough to cover what we had to pay the county. So that's why we're
Yeah,
increasing
it's
the
a
costs.
postage and envelopes, let people know.
Postage,
Correct, yeah,
envelopes,
there,
meters.
there's administrative costs involved,
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah, if even if you charge a couple extra bucks.
I mean, and
We
even,
purchase the tag, we purchase the paper to print the licenses, we mail them,
We
we
keep-
mail
Yeah,
reminders.
their time,
buck a piece or something.
you mail out, what, 100 notices a month, probably?
So if we can look
to
at
remind,
that, to
yeah.
see if a couple dollars
Mhm.
increase or, and that might be something to have that dollar increase a year. Is it just to keep up with?
And I am not a big fan of like charging people pennies and nickels and dimes here and there, but if we can say, hey, this is what we have to pay, so,
Right.
you know, I
Yeah.
think that's fair. Fair.
That's my only question.
Do you have any input on the rest of them, Heather?
Unfortunately, I really do not.
I know that. The one thing I had talked to Jean about was with the FOIL requests, we charge per page. But that's when we're printing them. There are in some cases where you don't actually print anything, you email it, right? And do you
Right.
charge for those when you email? So
No.
that seems to me a big, like,
think-
gap. That's
I
a lot of
think
time.
There's,
You can,
You
yeah,
can't?
no, I think there's laws, like, it has to surpass a certain amount of time before you can charge them for it.
yeah.
If you could charge them for it, but it just in general, no, I don't think you can.
So they look at it as the files are already electronic. So when you're paying the 25 cents, it's actually a reimbursement for the printing of the paper, not the time, because that's part of just
Right.
doing
So
business.
in actuality, you can't, your FOIL
Exactly,
charges
yeah.
can't take into
Can't
effect
charge your
your,
time.
your time. Okay.
Not
Okay.
unless it surpasses a certain amount, and I can't remember. what it
Okay,
is.
all right, then that's fair.
And that's all,
Hundreds of hours.
that's also,
It's a
I
lot.
know you guys spend a lot
I'm
of
sure
time.
it's a lot of time, but
Oh my gosh.
it's also a dangerous thing to get into also, because
Yeah.
then it's being charged for information
that they have a right.
that
to
they have a
have.
right to have. That's a difficult, that's,
Sure.
that's,
Yeah,
I guess.
I get it now,
Yeah.
though. That explanation helps out a lot. Thank you. Games of chance, return check fee. I probably should make sure that that is,
Sure that covers.
matches what we would be charged. All right. Anything else? Okay. Oh, the other thing that was on the agenda was the follow-up on the town manager discussion at the town board meeting. We were just gonna touch base, I guess. That's what we'd said last week. So from the town board meeting, I didn't watch it, or I'm sorry, but sounds like we're considering which,
We'll have a blank resolution drafted, and at the meeting, we'll make the decision. which
decision
firm,
on which firm to use.
and it'll
Okay.
just be filled into that, so the decision will be made on the 8th.
So, Capital planning had a question mark. I don't think we're at that point right now to figure out capital planning at all.
Just hoping that Santa Claus comes early with a big bag of money.
What are the
No
costs?
kidding.
And putting that on every wish list.
The next finance meeting, I don't even have my phone with me, so what is, we've got,
Probably on Thursday.
We got the town board meeting on the 9th.
so.
On
The 8th?
Yeah, by
I was
9th.
like, I'm looking at the wrong calendar. So it's on the 8th. Generally, we would have a finance meeting prior to that for resolutions, but we won't be doing that, right? Like, that's not necessary. We kind of went over everything. And we need to, I guess, and that's organizational.
We have a second meeting in January is 29th.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Somewhere I read the 31st, but that's a Wednesday.
First meeting would be on January 11th.
Hmm.
And the second meeting would be on January 18th. The
So
second-
January 11th,
Second and third Thursdays.
yeah.
Does that get adjusted for January to put it on the 25th to deal with the resolutions for the 29th, which will then be the financial.
Yeah, is the
bill date?
second meeting the 29th or is it the 31st? Like what day are
Second
you?
meeting is the 18th.
No, I'm sorry,
The town
the
board
town
meeting.
board meeting. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. So the town board meetings are the 8th and the,
29th.
Yeah, we need.
has to
keep
be
it-
on a Monday, 29th.
Just easier for the
Okay.
building.
So
So,
25th would be the,
We have a town board meeting the 29th.
Do we have to have one on the last of the month to the bill paying meeting,
it's the last chance to pay 2023 bills.
and then we close it out?
So
but there probably will, or well, there may be resolutions to consider too,
Yeah.
so.
You're right.
So having this meeting on the 25th.
there probably will be some budget transfers for sure.
So then we should modify our meeting on the 18th to be the 25th. Yes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There definitely needs to be a finance meeting on the 25th.
Okay, so should we have another earlier in the month?
It's necessary, isn't it?
I don't
I
think.
mean, we had the
this next
organizational
month-
meeting.
The org
We'll have
meeting.
some resolutions at that meeting, but not a lot of ones.
And then you'll have the majority, you'll have a handful of resolutions on the 29th,
Yeah.
but the org meeting is mostly. The resolutions are just reviewed and they're just,
So my only issue with the 25th is, well, and I guess this kind of goes further into next year. Considering when our meetings are going to be in 24. I know we have finance meetings the second and third weeks, so. The problem that I have or have noted was that, so when we have the meeting on the second Thursday is 4 days before the third Monday, right? So 5 days, whatever. So when we have that finance meeting, let's just take, for instance, the 25th. It's too late to make any changes to the resolutions that go in on the 29th. Okay, so I was talking with Adeline and I was kind of wondering if we shouldn't bump those meetings up to the first and second Thursdays, because then we'd have time to talk about resolutions that we want in that month's town board meeting prior to them being due.
You might not even have them by then, though.
But as a person who has to submit those resolutions, I know, so that first Thursday, I have to have those resolutions in by Friday. So on a normal month.
I'm confused.
Okay, so I know, I wish I had a calendar, but. So if the meeting, let's just take the dates in January, someone has a calendar out, right? So if you had your normal town board meeting in January, what would the date be?
15th.
Okay. So we would have a finance meeting on the second and third Thursdays. What are those dates?
The 11th and 18th.
Okay. The cutoff for resolutions for that meeting on the 15th is the first Friday.
Right.
which is, what's that date?
That's the fifth.
The fifth. Okay, so by having the cutoff for my resolution that's gonna be in the meeting on the 15th, I have to have it in the 5th. So if we have meetings, finance meetings, the 11th and the 18th, unless you do amendments at the town board meeting, whatever resolutions they have to do with,
They're done.
they're done, they're already submitted and published. So by moving the finance meetings to the first and second week, or even the first and third week, that first, having one the first Thursday will make it so that we can review resolutions that have to do with that month's town board meeting.
It's like 2 weeks ahead of time.
But that's when my resolutions are due.
Yeah, I heard they're,
No, they're due you had. So the resolutions are due to be in on the 5th.
Mhm.
Right, which
We
is,
have a meeting on the 11th
Right, so
to
my,
review them for the 15th.
right, so you're reviewing them, but they're already published, and, I mean, yes, you
Yeah.
can make amendments.
Well, the
But-
finance committee meeting, as I understood, the reason for it was to look at those resolutions and resolve any questions.
Mhm.
Address comments before the town board meeting, so an adjustment could be made at the town board meeting
Okay,
in the financial aspect of them. It's
right.
supposed to
it's
consider
supposed to
just
just
those
focus on
concerned
finance.
spending
numbers.
money, so.
So, and I guess from my perspective, I was just thinking if you had it a week sooner, it would actually give us a chance to discuss it and clarify it before so then you don't have to make amendments, it's already going to be fixed.
I mean, if the
But I
focus
guess
is
it
on-
doesn't matter.
if the- Since the focus is on finance, that would really bring it back to that focus on finance, because your question would just be mainly resolutions about
I mean,
money.
I can bring draft resolutions to that
Right.
first meeting, and if they need amendments, then they would be done prior to being submitted for that month's town board meeting. It's just something that I've been thinking about that
And if it's
didn't
something,
make,
it comes down to something that makes it seem like it runs smoother for your job and your aspect and your input, then I think it's something that should be looked at to try for that, because if it ultimately, I mean, the onus is on you for all the financial, and if you want to have that ability for us to discuss them.
I mean,
and make
especially in
those
this
those
transition.
adjustments, that's really the only way.
In this transition, I don't have anyone to
Yeah.
ask for input or approval or recommendations at this point. And so I don't have a $5,000 budget adjustment
Mhm.
leeway at this point until the
To
organizational
the
meeting.
organizational meeting,
And
right?
if someone else is appointed
Yeah.
to make those decisions.
So, I mean, right now, the resolutions had to be in on the 5th, the end of business on the 5th of
Mhm.
Friday.
Yeah.
Then we have a meeting on the 11th to
Mhm.
consider them.
Mhm.
You're saying that resolution should be in the week before that, the last week of December? Instead of the 5th of January?
No, I don't think so.
Our resolutions do have to be in by the end of December for the 8th.
right,
They have to be in by the 29th
Well,
or whatever.
This
Like in a
this is-
normal.
Yeah,
schedule,
this is
not the
January.
Right. No, in a normal schedule, it usually falls like the last Friday. It depends on what day of the week
Would
I
you
don't-
still have that be the due date?
No, yeah, I don't think she's.
I'm not changing the due date of
No,
anything because we have to have the agenda out in a certain time frame.
moving.
Just-
meeting up.
Just talking about
Yeah,
moving the
we
finance.
Have to have the resolution to consider, so.
Right.
That's right, but I do those, so.
If you use March.
well.
instead
I have to
of
do them
June,
anyway.
Finance.
Yeah.
Which is-
But those are the only ones we consider at the finance committee.
Well, no.
And if we
that's
had it the first and
Started out,
second week, the second week, we could still review anything else.
yeah, but If you look at March instead of January,
Okay,
our meeting in March would be, the 18th,
uh-huh,
day after Holy Day, Janet. March 17th.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, so resolutions would have to be in by March 8th. And you would have the way we've been doing, you'd have a meeting on the 14th
mhm,
ahead of the 18th.
Yeah.
So those resolutions would be in on the 8th, but you're saying have the meeting on the 7th?
right,
You wouldn't have the resolutions yet, because they got till the 8th to get them done.
that is true.
So I don't see how the.
The other
timing-
option would be to change the day of the finance meeting.
Well,
That's
bump
not
it
a-
back a few days. And
That's a
right.
Adeline
And
thing.
that could be a discussion to bump it back a few days.
No, it's a town board.
Yes.
Town board will.
Well,
would
yeah,
have
yeah,
to Weigh in on that.
right. Oh, I mean,
Oh,
she's the
yeah.
chairperson, so she has to be available. That's why I was, it would be up to
The chair.
yeah, to the committee to see what dates were. Okay, it was
So
just
it
an
might be
idea.
worth- Yeah.
I mean, I guess. Yeah, okay. That was all I had.
I guess it was kind of much of the adjourn.
Well, there's only one person that's committee member.
Oh, yeah.